Being stuck, being bored, having nothing to do. These are some of the worst things in life that can possibly hit you. Boredom hits me all the time. Being stuck, feeling I'm not making any progress, that, man, it's a perpetual downhill spiral that will suck you up. And I'm going to talk to you about that today. I want to talk about what it takes to be, when you feel stuck as like a leader. But what I'm going to talk about is going to apply to everybody. Because when you are stuck and when you are bored, it's this downhill spiral. And I just want to give you some ideas and some tips as to, number one, to recognize when you're in this situation, and to and some tips as to how to get out of it. And that's what we're going to talk about today on the Stop Doing Nothing show with Patrick Allman. Hey, my friends, thanks for watching. This is your host, Patrick Allman, founder of Stop Doing Nothing, here headquartered in beautiful Oklahoma City. Stop Doing Nothing is a media buying company, a coaching company, which I founded decades ago. We've also gone by the name Focus Digital Media. And what we do is, on the digital side, we just help people build amazing kick-ass companies. And on the coaching side, we just help you work on the mindset and the growth mindset and the mindset you need to succeed. Not just to succeed, but just to do amazing, kick-ass, phenomenal, ginormous things in life. If that sounds like you, then, I'm not going to plug our company a lot, but man, give us a call or give us a text, and we'd love to help you. This is a show that we try to do weekly or monthly or bi-weekly or tri-weekly or every 3.5 days, whatever inspiration hits us. And I really want you to know that while you're watching, I want you to focus and pay attention. You're going to be tempted to multitask, but I'm going to say some things that are very important to you. And if you're the kind of person who kind of listens to podcasts or YouTube shows in the background, I want to implore you to implore, I'm not quite sure which one that is. Implore you to focus on this one, because one of the reasons you may be watching this is because you're bored or you feel stuck. And it makes no sense to me if I'm going to give you some solutions here for you to listen to this in the background. So, try to put aside whatever you're doing right now, possibly pause this YouTube video or pause this podcast so you can get to a point where you can take notes and really focus on what I'm about to say. Before we get deep into it, I'm also going to ask you a favor. If you're listening to this on any podcast network, drop a review and subscribe, would you? Because that way I know which topics we have to talk about here, which are really going to help you and really change your life. And if you're listening to this on YouTube, I want you to do me a favor. Subscribe, leave a review or a comment, and also click on the little bell notification right there on YouTube. So again, we know what topics you like, what topics you dislike, and when you want us to go deeper into things. Today, like I said, we're going to be talking about being bored and being stuck, not only as a leader, but as someone who aspires for big things. Those are the people that we really like talking to, people like you who aspire to do absolutely phenomenal things in life. And as we get into this a little bit, I'm going to be talking again, some from the leadership side, because not everybody wants to be a leader, but some from the leadership side. If you ever want to lead an organization or lead a company or lead a group of friends or lead a charity, just something like that. If you ever want to do that, then some of these tips are really going to help you. First of all, I want to talk, I hate when I start like that. I want to talk a little bit about how to recognize boredom. Why do people get bored? That's going to be the first part of the show today. And then after that, I'm going to give you some tips as to how to kind of dig out of that rut. And hopefully before we get done, you'll have some good ideas. Because again, I want to encourage you to take notes while we talk about this. And I'm going to give you the problems I see, the problems I have actually personally had. I almost always only talk about things that have actually happened to me, because that's the only place I have experience. Otherwise, I just bring in experts to talk about what's happened to them. And so when we talk about being bored, I'm going to talk about some things that have happened to me when I'm bored. When I get bored, I go back to the root cause of it. And one of the things I really see is that I have a lack of purpose or a lack of aim in life. And this is not something that's taught in school. This is something that's only taught maybe after you've been on the planet a couple of decades. If you're lucky, someone taught it to you in your teens or your 20s. But I really wish that when we were grounded in our primary education and junior high school education and high school education, that we were taught the importance of having a purpose in life. And the purpose doesn't have to be, bring world peace or cure world hunger or cure AIDS. It just has to be any small number of things that we want to aspire to do before our time on this earth expires. So we want to aspire before we expire. There we go. You want to aspire before you expire. And when you don't have an aim, and I'm not talking about things just like goals. I talked about goals during the last show. We could talk about goals all day long. Having an aim, having a purpose is bigger than a goal. The goals are the little stepping stones to accomplish the aim or to accomplish the purpose, but having an aim is, I like to use the pilot analogy because I'm a pilot. Having an aim is knowing where you are going and being on a steadfast course and being able to ignore the distractions out there. In aviation, we call that, you put your plane on a heading, and you may have to change your speed, you may have to change your course a little bit here and there, but your general heading is in the same direction. You may have some turbulence, you may have to climb, you may have to descend, you may have to do all these things, but in general, your ship, your plane is going the same direction, or has a direction. And one of the things you never see in the world of commercial aviation, for example, is you never see a pilot take off and have no idea where they're going. They know exactly where they're going. And that is usually me, not 100% of the time, but that is usually me when I wake up in the morning and I put my feet on the ground, is I have a pretty darn good idea of where I'm going. And it has not always been like that. And so if you're taking notes, I would encourage you, that to be the first thing you write down is, are you bored because you just don't know what you're doing when you wake up in the morning? I mean, do you get up, lift your head off the pillow, put your feet in the ground, you're like, I don't know why I'm on this planet. When someone asks you, why are you put here today? Why are you on this planet? I want you to start thinking of responses. It may be to, again, lift people out of poverty. It may be to make a dent in world hunger. It may be any number of things, but it's good to have something. And by the way, don't worry that may change at some point in life. As you mature, your goals and your purposes and your aim may change, which is perfectly okay. But I have found out that one of the reasons people get bored and they get stuck is they just don't know where they're going. And if there was one thing I want you to take away from this entire show, it's having a lack of aim is what will make you bored, is what will get you stuck. Now, these next couple of ones are kind of in that same genre, and that's a lack of challenges. So lack of aim is where you want to go. But to me, I actually like to have some challenges in the way, some roadblocks that I have to go over, around, under, or through in the way. The first one that comes to mind are physical challenges. I go to the gym, I'm not going to say probably more than the average person, but I'm at the gym easily 3 or 4 times a week. And every single time I go, there's some kind of physical challenge that's put in front of me. It could be a literal wall, a ball, a weight, a barbell, a plate. That could be one. Another physical challenge could very easily be my own size. But when I'm not at the gym and I'm not working on my body, there's no physical challenge to life. And I get bored very fast. And even depending on the workouts I'm doing and the gym I'm going to, I may get bored very fast. So I really love it when there's a lot of variety in that area. And when every single week I have to wake up, and multiple times a week I physically have to figure out how to get around things. So in my particular case, when there's lack of physical challenges, I really get bored. The other one is lack of mental challenges. I love to be stimulated intellectually. I love to have to think about a problem. I love to have to, work on our business where we guide companies through doing amazing things with digital marketing. Whenever we onboard a new client and they're in an industry we've never worked on before, it's a challenge. And I love that. And I also love when our existing clients come to us and they say, you know what, we've been zigging for a while and we want to zag, and Patrick and team, we really want your help to figure out how to zag. And I'm like, come on, baby, let's bring it on, because I love that. I love mental challenges. But if I don't have them and I get stuck in some of the mundane routine ruts, and I know you've all been there, then I will get bored and I will feel like I'm stuck. I've heard someone say before that if you're not making progress, so whether you're staying in the same place or going backwards, you're really going backwards. So if every single day you are staying in what feels like you're staying in the same place, you're actually going backwards. Because life, if you have big, giant, hairy, aspirational dreams, life is either progress or life is either regress. Life is either moving forward or life is either moving backwards. Moving forward may be small incremental things, but if you're not making small incremental progress, then technically you're moving backwards because you're another day older, but you haven't made any progress. So you're always going to be making that progress or else you're regressing. So for me, the two big ones, or some of the two big ones, are the lack of a physical challenge and lack of a mental challenge. And the mental challenge kind of segues to another one I like to talk about, which is living life on autopilot. And this is how most people are set up. I've just noticed this over time that when it comes to graduating, school, for example, is on autopilot. From the moment you get in kindergarten, there's an easy progression. You can make it all the way through 12th grade without even really thinking because your parents and the school system and the government take care of it for you. They know what they have to teach you. After second grade comes third grade, after third grade. All your primary education is on autopilot. And then after there, it gets a little bit more challenging because then you get into college, if you choose to go that route, and you get into the career field. So the autopilot isn't as much, but once you get into those places, like once you get into college kind of runs on autopilot. You don't know what classes you're going to take? Meet with a college counselor. They have a predefined plan. Here you go. Here's a plan. And once you get your first job, you go to HR to get onboarded, and every single day you're given tasks, and it runs on autopilot for you. Unless you're a leader, unless you're really ambitious, life will run on autopilot for you. And it's kind of interesting. If you're not careful, you'll almost fall into this dull, nerve-numbing state, this dull, throbbing state of things just happening to you. You become that boat in the ocean where you're just kind of sitting there and the waves are pushing you around. And I hate that thought. I hate that concept of me just sitting in a boat and things just pushing me around. And who knows where I'll end up? Who knows if one day the waves are going to be big or one day the waves are going to be small? Just the waves are constantly slapping me, pushing me around. I'm getting wet some days I'm not getting wet, and every now and then the boat capsizes and I have to get back inside of it. Please, for the love of all that is holy, just don't coast through life. Don't sit in the boat of life and let the ocean push you around. Please, write that down. I do not want to sit in the boat of life and have it push me around. That is another big takeaway from this. And then, along with that, we get stuck in our routines. And this is one that does plague me. And this is one of the reasons I really like to travel a lot, especially on business travel. I try to incorporate something different in every little business trip that I do. I might add an extra day or two because I might do a mastermind while I'm there, or I might work in some extra meetings. Some people hate going to the airport. I absolutely love going to the airport. I love packing. I love going through security. I love meeting with people. I like striking up casual conversations. I cannot tell you the number of times I've generated new business, made new friends from random conversations when I travel. And one of the reasons is because I'm a very social person, but I get excited. I get excited to have airport coffee because this stuff gets me out of my routines. And getting me out of my routines spurs on some creative thoughts. And, creative thoughts get me to I'll do videos from the airport, or I'll get out my iPad and I'll start taking notes, or I'll message people. I'm saying, hey, I had an idea. I'm sitting here in the airport for another 45 minutes. I had this wild idea. Do you guys want to get on the phone and talk about it? I conduct a lot of business from airports, either texting or chatting or, video talking, because I'm not in my routine, and, creativity starts to flow a little bit more for me. So physically moving and traveling and the mental stimulation and the fact that I'm not just doing the same thing every day is absolutely pivotal for me and my growth. And if you are someone who's stuck or you're someone who's bored, you might consider that you need to get out of that regular environment to spur some creativity. You may have to go to the beach and sit there and relax, or you may have to go to the beach and work on a laptop, and that may spur some creativity. You may have to go on a cruise ship. You may have to go off the Santa Monica Pier, which I grew up in. I love going to the Santa Monica Pier, but my mind just never stops working on work. So if I'm walking up and down the Santa Monica Pier, for example, I may come up with some wild business ideas, and I may have to either text those to myself or write those down, because all that creativity, all that changing of my routine spurs my creativity and helps me come up with some really great ideas. So if you're bored or you're stuck, man, please try changing your physical environment. Change up how you wake up, change when you wake up, change your daily tasks, if you get up every single morning and you go to the restroom and you drink your coffee and you have your water and you do this and you do that, try changing up that routine. I mean, it's going to spur some creativity in you. And so those are some of the things I think that cause us to get bored and that, cause us to feel stuck. And on the flips, I think I've given you some solutions, but I want to go into that a little bit deeper. Maybe some deeper things as to why or how you can stop feeling stuck and how you can stop feeling bored. And again, most of these are going to be the flip side of what I just talked about. Now, the first one, lack of aim. In my notes, I wrote down, aspire for a legacy. And what does that mean? I don't want you to worry about, having to be, a Thomas Jefferson or who am I thinking of? Alexander Hamilton, where you have like a statue and you have a legacy. I mean, if you're lucky, to be one of those guys, and to get a statue erected for you, by all means, that's cool. But think about what you want to live on after you are going to die. Because I don't want to, let the show get down the doom and gloom, but let's face it, we all have a finite amount of time after, on this planet. After, 10 minutes after I record this, I may faceplant and I may be, worm food after this. Who knows? We just never know. So do me a favor and start thinking about what you want your legacy to look like. What do you want them to say was the impact of your life, at your passing? And maybe 5 years, 10 years down the line after you pass, what do you want to be remembered for? So do me a favor now and start thinking about your legacy. What do you want to leave on this planet for your your parents and your kids and your grandkids and your spouse? What do you want them to say and think about you? Because you have to start working on that right now. And again, I fall into this problem also. You have to start working on what you would consider a legacy right now. Something else that may help you not be so bored and help get you, out of being stuck is start sharing your education with people. And I'm really big on this one. Whenever I am forced to teach something or talk to a group of people or do a keynote speech for a big conference, I am forced to stretch myself. And I am forced to think about, what do I want to leave this audience with when all the applause is done and I walk off the stage and start signing things and start shaking hands? What do I want this group to feel when I'm on stage? What are my first words? What are my last words? What are my bullet points? And the only way I can do that, well, not the only way, I'm going to say one of the more popular ways, is to aspire to make sure that I teach people something. So whether or not I'm speaking to elementary school kids, whether I'm speaking to 1,000 adults in a room and every range in between, my goal is to always make sure I leave them with something. And to do that, though, you kind of have to think every single day about, what do I want to teach the world? What do I want the next generation of business people or the next generation of kids to walk away with when I am done? So one of the ways you can do that is to aspire to become a teacher. And you don't have to have any special qualifications to be a teacher. And when I'm not talking about, school grade education, of course you have to be qualified to go in and teach 5th grade physical education or go in and be able to teach 4th grade math. What I'm talking about is your trade. If you really want to leave a legacy or you really want to have people think you're an expert on something, take what you know in your career field. I'm assuming you've been doing your career field for a couple of years. And try to teach that to someone who is maybe a year or two behind you. Sometimes people come to me and they want to build a course of some sort. And they're like, I don't have a formal program. I don't call myself a keynote speaker. I don't have a syllabus. And I'm like, well, you know what? Tell me something about your job or your career that someone who's coming into their first day of that they don't know. Are you a metal worker, or do you work in the mud field in the oils, or are you a roughneck, or do you work on cars? If you work on cars and some brand new kid comes out of high school and it's his first day on the job and you've been working on cars for 5 years, what kind of things would you tell him? And that's kind of a creativity exercise. And once you get that going and you dig deeper and deeper and deeper, you realize pretty fast that you have a lot of knowledge in your brain. So aspire to teach. That's what's going to make you not bored. And that's what's going to make you not stuck in life. Aspire to use your voice for good. the world and society and kids and people on TV and other adults, they pay attention to the person who's in the room talking. Or another way to see it is, the person in the front of the room is the expert. And by front of the room, I don't mean necessarily physically, I mean virtually. I mean, you're listening to me right now, right? Because I am the one talking. If you want to be considered an expert, and if you want to get outside of your comfort zone, and you want to stop feeling stuck, consider just starting to verbalize your thoughts and feelings on things. And again, this goes back to the teaching thing. As always, use your powers for good. Don't use your powers for bad. But consider starting to use your voice so people hear you and people listen to you. And what's interesting about that is the more you talk, the more you realize you want to talk. And this is not an ego thing. For me, the more I teach, the more I want to teach. It's exciting to me. It's exciting to when I go in front of a group of people, either via Zoom or via real life, and I can share things and their eyes open up. That makes me want to do it more and more and more because I want to open up more and more eyes. So consider doing that, using your voice for good, sharing your knowledge. I can promise you there's somebody right now in the world who wants to know what you know. I also call this lifting the next generation on the shoulders behind you. The reason you know a lot of what you know is because somebody mentored you, either intentionally or accidentally. You learned from somebody else, okay? And I feel we have an obligation that when we learn from somebody else and we either improve upon it or we just learn it out of rote, I feel we have the responsibility to pass that on to future generations. If I learn something, if I learn about, cameras or public speaking or doing oil changes or lifting weights or flying airplanes, any number of skills, I feel I have an obligation to teach it to the class coming behind me. Somebody has to teach them. And if you've learned the skill and you've learned how to do it right and you've learned how to become more efficient at it, by gosh almighty, please try to teach that to somebody else, because your legacy oftentimes is going to be your knowledge you passed on to someone. If you're a car mechanic, for example, and let's say you started as an apprentice in your 20s and you got really good in your 30s and your 40s and your 50s, and you're watching this now and you've decided you want to start teaching, remember that there's car mechanics coming on the market all the time in their 20s and 30s, and they don't know jack compared to what you know. But they're going to have to keep working on cars. Cars aren't going anyplace. So it's up to you to pass on that information, to pass on that knowledge. One, because if you're good at it, people really want to know. But number two, and again, I don't mean to be too morbid about this, but the moment you pass away, all those decades of experience that you had are lost. The moment you pass away, bam, all that knowledge is lost. I have that fear, to tell you the truth. And I don't want that to be the case. I don't want to get to the point where where all my information is lost. I want to teach it to people. So it's very important for me to try to teach as much as I can before I die, so it lives on and so it goes to the next generation. So whenever I have a chance, for example, to work with kids, or recently I had a chance to talk about my business, marketing and advertising at a junior high school. I took advantage of that. And you know what? The vast majority of kids just weren't having any of it. But a lot of them, when I told them what it involves, it involves being able to edit video and doing, public speaking and being able to work with companies and basically show how cool products are. And I related that to them about the stuff that they're wearing. I'm like, the stuff that you're wearing it because of marketing. So if you like this idea of creating products or marketing or advertising, here are some tips on how to get into it. I had a blast doing this. I did this, I think it was for 4 or 5 hours at a junior high school a couple of weeks ago. And junior high school kids are really great because they're at that point to where they're starting to form really strong opinions on things. When you and trust me, I've done a lot of not formal school education when it comes to teaching kids, but a lot of speaking to different groups. And elementary school kids really don't know what they want yet. They're just worried about what they're wearing and the boyfriends and girlfriends they have for half an hour. and just sometimes, coming into themselves and boasting. Junior high school, people are really starting to form strong opinions about maybe their careers or where they want to go. And I consider that also that way in, early high school. People are starting to form opinions, and so that's a good time where you can get a hold of impressionable minds and making a difference. So if you get a chance, quick sidebar, try to teach, try to volunteer at a local junior high school and get in those brains early. But use your voice for good. Another way you can stop being bored, and we touched about this briefly, is picking a single problem and working on it. It could be, I'm really big into education, if you can't tell. And so I think, to me, it's very important for me to educate all the time. I want to educate as much as I can before I die on any topic whatsoever. I'm a pretty decent communicator. But that's my goal, is to educate kids at an early enough age as possible. That's one of my goals, to educate kids at an early enough age as possible so they can start forming opinions earlier and have more of an impact on the world. I would love it if I taught, a sixth grader, a seventh grader, eighth grader enough to where they started realizing they have an impact on the world. I also love teaching beginning business owners because I like showing them the possibility of things. I am a case study in possibility. With very little formal education, I've started and run multiple businesses. I'm on the news on a regular basis. I'm on stages on a regular basis. It's not hard to find a piece of Patrick Allman. But very little of this has come from formal education. A lot of it's just come from wanting to do bigger and better things and watching the people who came before me and learning how to do bigger and better things. So again, getting back to what I was talking about, try to pick, one problem and work on it. And once you have that aim and you have that focus, the boredom and the getting stuck kind of take care of itself. And kind of wrapping up here, and one of the last things I would encourage you to do, excuse me, by the way, let me know if you want to stop doing nothing Playmakers Cup. This one on camera, you can't see it, those of you listening to the podcast, this one on camera is chipped, but I've got these here at the office if you want to stop doing nothing Playmakers Cup. Another way you can get out of your rut and stop being stuck and stop being bored is go mingle with different people. As you get into your 20s and your 30s and your 40s, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, you tend to stop mingling with new people. We get our set group of friends and we get into our routines and we just, we're comfortable with those friends. We trust those friends. They trust us. We know what they're doing Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. We go to the same dinner parties, the same birthdays, the same funerals. And to me, I'm not going to say I get bored with the same people around me, but once I learn a lot from being around new people, the area of learning, the rate of learning slows down. That's what I think I really want to say, is the rate of absorption and the rate of learning slows down. If I know you for 10 years, I probably know a lot about you. Not that I can't learn anything new, but if we've been, if we've been like high school buddies since, I don't know when I graduated high school, I can't remember now, but if we've been high school buddies and we've known each other for 20 or 30 years, every single day I'm learning less from you. Not that those relationships, not those friendships don't have value, but if you really want to stretch yourself and if you really want to get out of a rut and you really want to stop being stuck and stop being bored, my advice to you is go find a conference. I love going to conferences. I love going to conferences because, number one, I'm a pretty darn good networker. But when I go to a conference, I'm always looking for the people who I've never met before. Oftentimes at conferences, they'll have networking events. And, they'll say, sit at a table, find some friends. And one of the best things you can do is go find a table of people that you have never met before. Oftentimes when we go to events like this and we go to friends, we are inclined to just hang around the same people. Wake up, have coffee, have bacon, have breakfast, have lunch, have dinner with the same people. No, do me a favor, go find an industry conference or two. And if you can't find one for your industry, let me know, I'll find one for you. But I like going out and finding industry conferences in cities I've never been in. So there's a little bit of discomfort there. I do have some favorite cities. And when you get there, from the moment you can do this sometimes even when you're on the plane or in the airport, from the moment you get to the registration desk, introduce yourself to people who you've never met before, who know nothing about you. When you are, mingling at social events or walking the booth circuit, talk to people, and give out cards like crazy. Oh my goodness, please give out business cards like crazy. Not just to people who you may want as a client or who may want you as a client. Just give them out like freaking candy. Give out your cell number, because you're going to make a ton of friendships, and those friendships are going to help make you grow. When you are maybe attending a breakout session or a keynote session, please go find a table and sit with someone who you've never met before. And when you sit down, introduce yourself to everybody at the table and shake their hand. Some of these people are going to become lifelong friends. Some of these people are going to have knowledge. I tell you, probably all of these people are going to have knowledge that you want. But here's another cool side effect of that. Some of these people are not going to have any knowledge at all, and you're going to be, let's say, above them in knowledge level, and that gives you a way to mentor people or to share your information with them. So this is what happens sometimes when I go to a conference, and I absolutely love this, is I sit at a table, and I introduce myself to people, and there are some people there that are 5-10 years senior to me in the particular field, and there are some people that are 5 to 10 years junior to me, and I'm right in the middle. And then I can learn from some of the people, and I can teach some of the people. Now, I don't go there purposely to pick up clients or to teach people, but I love it when that's a happy accident, because then after hours, when we're having drinks around the fire pit or whatever, a lot of knowledge exchange happens. When you can sit around, this is one of my favorite things at a conference, is to sit around the fire pit with people that know more than me and people that know less than me. And the 3 of us, or the 6 of us, or the 5 of us, or whatever, are exchanging information. And we're helping each other out. We're like, oh, have you ever thought about doing this in this career field? Or have you ever thought about doing this particular way? I love that. I love that exchange of information. And usually these people, number one, they become friends first. Always try to make friends first. And then at some point, they might become clients also. So again, it's kind of a quick recap, and I'm sorry I kind of went on a while actually, I'm not sorry at all. I love talking to you. As a quick kind of recap as to some of the things you can do to stop being bored or stop being stuck, whether you're a leader or whether you're the average Joes, my favorite team in dodgeball right there. These are things that you can do to get unstuck and to become not being bored, and to not be bored. Number one, aspire for a legacy. Very important. What do you want to happen? What do you want to say on your tombstone? What do you want people to say at the lectern when you die? Number 2, aspire to teach. When you aspire to teach, you are forced to stretch yourself, and you are forced to learn new things, and you can't be bored. You can't be bored if you are forced to learn new things. Aspire to use your voice for good. Aspire to teach the younger generation using your voice for good. Pick one problem and dedicate your life and your time to solving it. Another good way to not be bored and not feel stuck in a rut. And like I said also, probably most of what I talked about is getting outside of your comfort zone physically, mentally, psychologically, emotionally, travel, and if you don't have a big budget to travel, and to say the truth, most traveling doesn't require a big budget, do something like, at any given day, change the place you work. So, when I wake up Monday, I may not be able to fly across the country and go sit by the Bay Bridge in San Francisco at a coffee shop and work. That's okay. I'll drive 20 minutes across my city and go find a coffee shop there. Just change your environment up. That's when I get bored. That's when I get stuck, is when my environment doesn't change and my mental environment doesn't change and I'm not having any challenges put forth to me. But once I start voluntarily putting challenges in my way, I have no choice but to adapt and no choice to to get better. And when I'm working on adapting and getting better, I don't have time to be bored. I don't have time to be stuck. So if you're an emerging leader and you're feeling stuck, or you're just somebody who wants to be an entrepreneur or be any kind of, aspire for bigger and better things in life, do me a favor, try some of these tips and techniques. If you have any comments or any feedback on them, I would love them. Please drop me a comment on the podcast. Go find me on social media as Patrick Allman. You can't miss me. I'm all over the place on there. And like I pointed out at the beginning, do me a favor and subscribe to this podcast. Go get on our email list at stopdoingnothing.com if you want me to email you when new episodes come out. And if you're watching this on YouTube, please subscribe. click on the subscribe button below and click on the bell to get notified when I and my team upload new videos for you, because I love doing these. And again, almost all these videos and all these video ideas come from questions people have asked me, either in online or I've done research to see what people are talking about, or in person. These are topics that people have asked of me, and those are the ones I choose to talk about because they're going to help you. So as always, thank you for watching. Subscribe. Share this episode with a friend also, someone who's told you recently they're bored and they're stuck in their career and you want to help them get out. And I would appreciate your feedback. Until next time, my friend, go change your environment, get unbored, get unstuck. Don't fall back into the ruts of your life after you have watched this video or listened to this podcast episode. You don't know it, but from the Stop Doing Nothing studios here in Oklahoma City, I am absolutely 100% cheering for your success. Until I talk to you next time in person or real life, have a great, great day. I love you. This is Patrick Allman signing off.